I'm going to have to come clean at the start of this video. So as a workflow enthusiast, I've built this channel around the idea of optimization and workflow. I've spent the longest time with a terrible workflow for my clothes. This problem of having a floor drape where you end up with all of your clothes basically on the floor by the side of your bed, and you don't know which are clean and which are ready to wash. So I thought it was time I actually solved this once and for all after driving my wife mad with this ongoing issue. Now, we've actually had quite a functioning laundry routine in this house where we, all four of us, two kids and my wife and I, have our own laundry bag. So we have our own idea of, our own dirty clothes go in our own bags for the laundry, and we just do our own washes. So some time ago, I was sort of looking at this issue where one of us every week would be sifting through our clothes, sorting them out so that they could be put away in the right place again. And I thought, actually, let's just trace this back to where this goes wrong. And it's, of course, when everyone puts the same clothes in the same container ready for a wash. So by having our own bags, we've solved that problem. And so that's a good foundation for this. But it didn't solve this issue for me of having a floor drape. In fact, it sort of encouraged it because, of course, I just have the area where my clothes go, and that just gets mixed up. So at the end of the day, I'd end up just putting my clothes on the floor, maybe my jacket and my trousers I'd obviously be intending to wear again the next day. But of course, the shirt and the undies are going down to the wash. But you just end up with this situation where you have an unknown quantity of messy clothes all over the floor by the side of the bed. And even though I've got a chest of drawers, I knew there must be a better way. I knew there was a workflow somewhere that would solve this problem and result in a clean floor by the side of my bed 100% of the time, and at the same time promote this idea of reducing decision fatigue as well, which we're going to get onto in this video. So simplicity is the key. The solution is very simply to just put a chair on the floor in this place, and we just look at the chair as essentially a storage place for your clean clothes. Now, it doesn't have any utility as a chair in this position in this room. So a chair is actually a very functional shape here. It has an aesthetic quality to it. A chair doesn't look out of place in the room for a start. Anything on that chair sort of looks quite organized. So we're drastically improving the visual aspect of this straight away. But of course, the back of the chair is a perfect place to drape shirts. You just hang them over, and you can sort of pile up the week's worth of shirts over the back of the chair with no drama there. And then maybe that's sort of just to one side, and there's space for some trousers or a jacket on the other side. And then your undies can just be stored on the base of the chair itself. And this just is very effective. So there are actually multiple parts to this that make it as effective as it is. And I'm really kicking myself for not adopting this sooner in my life. So we have to start by looking at the problem with drawers. Now, drawers, I've always felt have been an interesting one, because on the one hand, they are fantastic at removing visual clutter from your living spaces. You can put stuff in a drawer, it's out of sight, it's out of mind. That's, of course, then when the problem comes in. And for me, I've never, ever managed to keep a drawer in a state of being organized over time. So I have a good drawer storage system for all my electronics and things. And every now and again, I'll get everything out and put everything back in a sort of super organized fashion. It lasts about 6 to 10 months before it starts deteriorating. There is just no way that I've found to keep a drawer organized over time without a sort of, an amount of effort that I just don't feel I'm prepared to put into doing that. And I think a big part of that is because it's out of sight. So, of course, the main area where this falls down is when you are unloading your clean clothes from the washing machine. You then have to put them in the drawer. So instead of just a quick, smooth, seamless process, you actually, to stop a drawer system going into chaos, you have to organize the drawer at the point in time that you're reloading it with your clean clothes. And that just makes that process too much of a barrier. And it's much faster just to kind of chuck the clothes in the drawer. So that's what I end up doing, of course, and this is how the problem propagates. So the chair system solves this problem by combining that sorting, organizing element into simply the way it works. It's by design, by definition, there is no way of doing this in a messy way. You take the clothes out of your laundry bag and you put them on the chair, and they sort of self-organize. There's only really one way you can put a shirt on the back of a chair, and it's a nice sort of pile of organized shirts draped over. If they are slightly damp from the dryer, then they're airing a little bit nicely in the room as well. So a big part of this is kind of simplifying my whole approach to what I wear as well. I've got basically a bunch of t-shirts that are either this color or black, and they go on the back of this chair, and that is just what I work my way through every day. There is science out there that shows that every choice you make sort of depletes your energy for making choices later in the day. So there is a huge logic to removing choices about what clothes to wear each morning. So the other important part of the way this works effectively is by eliminating decision fatigue and removing any choice about what it is to wear. You need the clothes to all be the same, because you don't want to be lifting up some of them to get at one halfway down that pile. It only really works as fluidly as it does if you can just simply take that top shirt off the back of the chair every time. So you have to be prepared to adopt this kind of single idea to the colors of your clothes and the type of your clothes. So I just have t-shirts all more or less either black or this color. I don't really mind which of those that I wear each day. So I just take the top one off, and that's why that works so well as well. The other part of all of this that's very effective is you're never caught out. You know exactly how many items of clothes you've got left. So you can start planning ahead and sort of thinking when it is that you're going to do your wash, and you know exactly how many shirts you've got left because you can just see them. It's very easy to visualize. There's this constant state visibility of this whole system in play all of the time as well. This is another area where I was always kind of caught out. I'd find myself going through all of my clothes. I'd pull the drawer out and there was no clean shirts in there. I hadn't done the wash because, of course, I wasn't looking in the drawer. And that's kind of partly because the drawers are so chaotic. When I take a shirt out, I can't really easily tell if there are some somewhere left hidden under other items or whatever. That's kind of part of the problem that this solves so nicely as well. So what's interesting about this is it overlaps with this professional cooking principle, mise en place, which is this idea where in a professional kitchen, it's so important that you have this workflow that incorporates all of the processes smoothly and everything is ready and in its right place all of the time, and you clean as you go along, and just these sort of ongoing workflows that reduce buildup of problems to deal with later. This really reflects this. Everything is in its right place. I can sort of see exactly where I'm at in the week's cycle of clothes, tidying as I go along, just purely because there is no middle ground. There's no extra burden to keep this looking organized other than simply using it in the way it is designed. So in terms of the storage mechanism for the dirty clothes, so at the end of the day, my shirt and undies go just in this little lightweight bag that sits underneath that chair. This is, obviously keeping everything off the floor. It is still on the floor, but it's under the chair and it's organized. It's in the right place, ready for that laundry wash to get done. So if it's dirty, it goes in the bag. If I'm going to wear it again, like my jacket or trousers, I'll hang it on the chair. That's the easiest thing to do, is to put it on the chair. It's even nearer to me than the floor, so I cannot fail at doing this, which is of course why this is so effective. Whatever I do, it's better than putting it on the floor, and that is that process. So we've got these three ideas of memory, decision-making, and movement, all of which are represented here, with the drawer system fighting against all three of those, and the chair system embracing the way that your mind and body want to work, removing decision fatigue, making these systems work in a more natural way that you want to move, and then working with the way that your memory works by avoiding this sort of hidden state situation with the drawer system and making everything visible all of the time so that you know exactly where you are in these longer term workflows, like when you need to put your laundry on. So interestingly, this bag is just like this sort of synthetic, super cheap thing from AliExpress. I think it's about £1.50 or something like that. If you look on Amazon for laundry bags, you can tell this is one of these areas that people have this aspirational idea of super organized laundry. And obviously marketers will spot this and try and sell you these lovely, expensive laundry bags with compartments and systems and handles that make it easy. Of course, all of that's nonsense. What you just need is a simple, super lightweight bag like this that's really strong. You can just move it around with the clothes in. It doesn't tear. It allows air to flow in and out, so damp clothes are airing even when they're in there. This is literally all you need, and you can just tuck it smoothly underneath. And this will squish under a bed if you wanted to do that, or just fit obviously under the chair like I'm doing here. It's not got any rigidity to it. When it's empty, it scrunches up into almost no space at all. It's just the simplest possible version of this, and it works perfectly. So it's really a case of where the correct behavior is part of the way the system is designed. There is no way I can fail at using this, and this is what is just so important when you're kind of thinking about these sorts of day-to-day routines and how to optimize them. This is a perfect example of how to do this well, I think, where you really focus on making sure the desired outcome is also the simplest, easiest outcome. It's not about designing a complex workflow that will solve the problem if only you had the discipline to stick to it. That never works. And of course, this overlaps with the time management principles that I'm a big fan of Mark Forster's work, looking at all of his amazing time management systems. I've done videos on that on this channel as well, where you are exploring this idea of the path of least resistance to things, or flipping on its head and exploiting that in that way as well. But it's all about resistance, and so much of his work is based on the idea of resistance. So those sorts of principles are coming into this as well. It's really about making the right thing easier than the wrong thing, and that's how this thing works. Now, obviously, of course, when we're talking about using a chair for your clean clothes storage, it can hold far less than your chest of drawers. So that's a restriction that I found beneficial. It's nice to think of my whole wardrobe as simply basically a week or so's worth of shirts and associated undies, and then I just use trousers and a jacket. That's it. I've managed to sort of reframe my entire wardrobe. That will see me through all of the year. It's not so cold in England that I have to rethink sort of under layers or thermal layers, this is enough. A cotton t-shirt is basically all I need all year round. Obviously, most of my time is spent indoors anyway. So obviously then to go outdoors, I'll slip on my jacket and then a down jacket over the top of that, and that will see me through the worst of British winter temperatures as well. So just a drastic simplification, embracing the restriction of obviously ultimately far less combined storage for the clothes. And I think it's just sort of thinking in terms of a weekly cycle of clothes that you deplete and then you wash, and you deplete and then you wash, instead of having potentially, you know, multiple weeks worth of clothes in a drawer system where you are then picking and choosing which ones of those, and some of those items will remain unworn for months at a time. And it's just sort of about thinking about how many of those things you've got hidden away in that drawer system and working towards getting rid of it and streamlining this whole process. So if you saw my recent video where I was talking about making my own household products, you'll see I mentioned the laundry liquid. Now I've actually just made a new batch of this, and I'm as pleased as I was the first time I did this with that as well. So I'm using my own laundry liquid as part of this complete laundry workflow solution as well. That's been a brilliant thing to do. Very basic. I'll put the ingredients on the screen here. Of course, you can see all of these recipes for these DIY products and things in my Zettelkasten notes vault, which is available to members of all levels on this channel. Your membership is so wildly appreciated. Thanks ever so much. So this DIY laundry liquid recipe is incredibly softening on the clothes. There's no need for any kind of fabric softener or anything like that. And with so many commercial laundry detergents, you do find there is this sort of lack of softness on the fabric when they're done. My laundry liquid seems to solve this. It's really brilliant and leaves the clothes smelling lovely and fresh from lavender essential oils in the mix there as well. It's obviously very, very cheap, much cheaper than commercial laundry liquid as well. So definitely worth thinking about making your own products. This is a good one to get started with. So this whole workflow is a really nice example of just how important design is to the success of a system, as opposed to just relying on discipline, which is actually very hard to pull off on, you know, in a normal. Some people, I think, some people are much more disciplined in their day-to-day workflows. I'm not one of those people. Left to my own devices, stuff accumulates, clutter accumulates. I'm not very good at keeping on top of stuff. So to solve that problem, I have to design a system that it becomes easier for me to do the right thing than the wrong thing. And that's what I've done here. And I'm really pleased with the way that it's working. And if your mind works in a similar way to mine and you find yourself prone to a wardrobe accumulating, this, I think, is a great way of working with the way that your mind works, not against it, to solve this problem. And the rest of your family will thank you for doing this. And of course, this whole thing is just such obviously a mundane daily routine that we all have to deal with. And I think I really love thinking about these kinds of things. And I think this channel has explored quite a few of these areas. So hopefully this video has kind of sparked a little bit of something that sort of suggests that it is beneficial to consider these daily mundane routines and workflows and result in a superior outcome. So another mundane routine, I say mundane because actually it is quite enjoyable a lot of the time. If you've got the time to do it, you can actually sort of derive a lot of enjoyment from it. This isn't to take away from that. But at the point where you want to have the car clean more than you have time available to do it as kind of a pastime, you want something efficient. And I have put some serious thought into this and come up with a very interesting workflow. I've done a video on that that's done quite well. It's nearly 500,000 views or something on that one now. So lots of good comments on there. So I think it's gone down quite well. Do check that video out next. I'll put it on the screen there, and I'll see you there.